welcome back to my channel. My name is Jen, also known as Boston Jen on Ravelry and Boston Jen 1 on Instagram, and I'm the host of the Down Cellar Studio Audio Podcast, where I talk about my knitting, spinning, crochet, all sorts of fiber crafts and other crafty adventures that I get into. And what I'm here to share with you today is a review of all of my fibery projects from 2020. And I'm really excited to share it with you in this format. I often talk at the end of the year or the beginning of the next year on my podcast about what I've finished and some things that I've learned or other things that I want to share with you all. But I figured now that I'm doing some videos, it would be a fun way to share on this medium and actually get to show you some things. Now, most of the things that I make in any given year, I give away. So I don't have physical things to share with you for many of them, but I have pictures and I'm going to share those with you and I'm going to tell you some important things about each one. Now, I'm not going to list project information for all of these because as you're going to see in a second, there's a lot, but I will link to my Ravelry tab for all of my 2020 projects. So anything that I'm talking about today, you can find over on that tab. And if you have any questions at all, of course, you can leave a comment down below and I would be happy to answer that. All right, let's dive right in. We're going to start out with some overall totals. What did things look like by the numbers? All right, are you ready? We had 214 finished knitting and crochet projects, 6 finished spinning projects, and this was my first year spinning, and 1 finished weaving project. Okay, let's do the breakdown of the 214 knitting and crochet finished objects. Now, as you can see here, 117 of those were washcloths. So those were simple crochet projects that maybe took 20 minutes. And it was my goal to get rid of my cotton stash. So that's a big number, and that's the reason for that one. It was a great summer project for me. Then the next highest was toys in 22, which is actually a pretty low number for me. We have 9 nieces and nephews. They all request toys usually, but that didn't happen this year, which makes sense as they're getting older. And we did a few less for birthdays this year. So that number is a little lower. 19 for socks sounds about right. 9 for hats seems a little low to me. The biggest surprise for me here, though, I think was the blankets and the sweaters. Not doing the majority of my knitting and crochet on the train to and from work this year because of COVID. It really enabled me to work on bigger projects and not be encumbered by how much stuff I had to bring with me. And then really no other surprises on the rest of these, but I'll be excited to share some more when we get into the details, especially because some of these were firsts for me. And then I always like to do the breakdown between knitting and crochet. And so this year I did 35 knitting projects and 179 crochet projects. Again, the washcloths are really skewing that number there. But knitting 35 feels really low to me. That's definitely an interesting one. And 65 of that total were gifts, plus most of the washcloths. So again, I give away most of what I make because I make a lot. And so I don't need to keep all of that. And I'm really happy to share. And if you've been listening to my podcast for a while, you'll know that my family is extremely knit and crochet worthy. So it's not a hardship at all to give away my things to people that I know love them. In terms of what I finished, I thought we would start first by talking about my designs because I often start out the year with designing. Once Christmas knitting is over, I jump right into design projects. And at the beginning of 2020, I did a collaboration with Mary of Kino Knits for Point Counterpoint Volume 5. This is where 2 designers each create a pattern and then we send the picture to the other one and then the other designer makes something to match. So my first design was this shawl, which is called the Yorkshire Meadow shawl. It's a triangular shawl worked with plied yarn in these 2 beautiful colorways. And it's I love the shawl. I wear it all the time. It's about 150 grams. So for me, it's a great size. It doesn't work so well over this bulky sweater, but it is one of the favorite things that I've ever designed. And I had a lot of fun working on this. So I sent the picture of this to Mary and she created some mitts to match. And then Mary designed a beautiful cowl and sent a picture of that to me. And I had to figure out something that would match and went with this beautiful cable that I had to invent to make it work. And this is my Abington hat. So it's reverse stockinette in the body, some beautiful cables and twisted stitches. And this one has sold really well for me. I enjoy wearing it all the time. And I also did a version with stockinette for the body because I know not all of you love purling. And I just wanted to see what it would look like, and I really like the effect of it like this as well. One fun thing about this collaboration is that we wanted to make sure that we were working with and helping to promote BIPOC makers. And so we worked with Plied Yarn, which is a collaboration between Ann Weaver and Karita from Neighborhood Fiber Company. And then this yarn is from Farmer's Daughter Fibers, which is an Indigenous woman run company. So that was a great way to start the year. All right. I think actually even before that collection came out, although I started designing that first, I also came out with a My Favorite Murder themed hat called Stay Out of the Forest, which is a running sort of theme or joke from that podcast. It's a true crime comedy podcast, which if that sounds weird to you, then no worries. It's got the hashtag SSDGM on the back, which stands for Stay Sexy and Don't Get Murdered. And this one was kind of a long time in the making. I started out with fingering weight yarn and really enjoyed that, but it was going to be difficult to size. Let me grab the other so I can show you. Okay, I'm back. Then I did worsted weight, and it was just too big. You were not able to see all of the design sort of in one swath of the hat, and I really wasn't happy with that. And so I settled on DK weight yarn. Worked with Kate of Goosey Fibers for some beautiful My Favorite Murder themed yarns. This was the first version, and I really enjoy the browns with the lovely red, and these all have really fun colorway names. And then I also did the blue one that I have already shown you. So really happy with this one. It's a really fun sort of cult favorite-y kind of themed hat, and that brought me a lot of joy. This here is my thumper hat pattern, which actually came out in 2019, but it's one of the things that I finished in 2020 that I wear all the time. I love a good slouchy hat. It's very fitted at the crown, but then loose after that, and especially when I wear my hair curly, I like this one a lot. It's very simple lace pattern, but this might be one of the things that gets the most wear for me. And then I did a fingerless mitts pattern, which is meant to match my Ice Time hat and my Ice Time cowl, which also came out in 2019. And these are my Ice Time mitts. This is a DK weight pattern. It calls for 2 skeins of DK weight yarn. And it's really simple. It's mosaic knitting, so you're never knitting with more than one color in any round. They're a lot of fun, and I wear these all the time. Okay, 2 more designs to show you. The next one is a crochet pattern for a growler cozy. These glass growlers are common at craft breweries if you're not familiar, so you can bring this there, they'll fill it up, and then you can have it at home, and it stays pretty fresh in your fridge in these bottles. So this is what we do a lot when we visit breweries, but we had a couple of them break because they clanged into each other in the back seat. And Dan said, this thing needs a cozy because we put cozies on everything around here. And I said, you know what, you're right. And I didn't like any of the patterns that I found. So I designed this one. You hold 2 skeins of cotton yarn together, dishcloth cotton. I held a cream color with these rainbow stripes, and it's just a really fun, really quick project. So this is called the Brew Buddy Growler Cozy, and this was actually my last pattern at the end of 2020. And then last but not least, in terms of designs to show you, is my Boxing Day bonus shawl, which I absolutely adore. I designed this to go with advent calendar. So if you get an advent calendar, mini skeins, 20 grams of yarn, this calls for 20 of those. And you could repeat colors. So you may not need quite that many, but it is worked sideways. And you just stripe through the colors, and then in the center you've got these eyelet sections, and then you do some garter stitch or eyelet triangles to form that center. And it's a really big, really cozy, I think it's around 200 grams of fingering weight yarn. But I really enjoy this one, and I think it's such a fun way to play with colors. So those are my 6 designs for the year. Let's dive now into some of my other categories of knitting. Knitting with beads was definitely a first for me, and it wasn't as difficult as I thought, and I ended up with this beautiful necklace for my mom for Mother's Day. One of the funniest things I made this year was this crochet wig for my nephew Garrett. Here's a video of him opening it on Christmas.
I got a wig!
Let me see.
I thought it was something Jen made.
No, she
It
did.
did.
That's what he asked for.
Where's my phone?
You're freaking.
It looks like you, Garrett. That's you, buddy.
It fits!
Wait a minute.
What's it made out of?
Rainbow yarn.
Oh, really?
I had to
Stay
figure
like
out
that.
a way to make all those little twist
Oh my
things stick out
God.
from it. I had fun crocheting this trim in a belt for a skirt that I got at Sabres for my niece. Unfortunately, this was from 2019 and probably didn't actually fit my niece by the time I gave it to her. My first baby item for 2020 was actually a hat for a doll, and then I made 2 rompers. Fortunately, this beautiful blue one felted, but I had better luck with the next one. Early in the year, I made a blanket square for a memory blanket for my friend Amy, who tragically lost her husband, Scott, at the end of 2019. Then I spent a lot of spring and summer working on baby blankets for all different members of our family and friends who are expecting babies in 2020. I even did my first corner to corner crochet, which was really fun, and it's this gray and pink blanket here. Then disaster struck with a granny square blanket that I absolutely adored, which developed holes when I washed it. Very, very sad. Now I'm using it as a cushion in my office. I was pleasantly surprised to see how many socks I was able to knit in 2020. Normally, socks are my on-the-go knitting and on-the-train knitting, and let's face it, in 2020, we didn't go or do or see very much. So most of my socks were knit on conference calls or in some short car trips when we went kayaking and sitting on the beach and by the pool and things like that. But I really like them. As you can tell, I love self-striping sock yarn, so that's most of what I did this year. Also threw in a couple pairs of kind of shorty socks, which were fun too. I also made 3 crocheted stockings. This is a tradition on my mom's side of the family, so we had 3 new folks who needed them this year. One fun kind of random project I did was this trivet for my grandmother, and it's made up of all these fun little baubles. One thing I never thought I would make is a ripple bralette, but I did go ahead and do just that, and I gifted it to my niece Emmeline, and now I'm very tempted to make one for myself too. I think I've saved the best category for last because let's face it, toys are fun. Hattie loved her little hedgehog that she got late for Christmas last year, and then this little bunny set for her birthday in February. Millie's birthday was up next and she asked for a monkey, so I made her this one with a banana sleeping bag, which I think got the most likes out of anything I've ever posted on Instagram, and Millie liked it too. For the spring birthdays, I started putting a little COVID twist on the kids' toys, which meant a mask and putting things in quarantine so that it was safe for them to touch after a few days of being gifted it. I also made this cute little birthday cake, some more unicorns, and some aliens at the request of my nephew Oshin. He really liked them. Then my niece Emmeline was going off to college early in August, and I found out her school's mascot was a llama, so I made this little llama for her, and her reaction was just priceless. I made a few things for me and then got right into toy making for the Christmas season. Millie asked for an owl. I made Baymax from Big Hero 6 for my niece Hattie. Ayla asked for smaller bunny nugget-sized versions of her existing toys, so this is what she got. Emmeline asked for another piggy nugget because she lost hers at college. Oshin drew what he wanted, and I made him an alien. Then I made this cute little gnome and a gingerbread man for Karina and Ella, and then finished up with some Star Wars characters. We did Baby Yoda for my youngest niece Gabriella, and then once that was done, I made an Ahsoka doll from Clone Wars and Mandalorian for our friend Trish. In the early spring, I taught myself some very basic weaving using a loom that I purchased for the kids to use when they have sleepovers and want to do crafts. And I had a box of scrap fabric as part of Crispina's Scrapbox challenge, and this is what I've created. It's sort of an abstract multimedia landscape using twigs and branches from my yard, and I love the way that it came together, and we ended up hanging it over the desk in our guest room. 2020 was the year I learned to spin. A very, very generous listener gifted me this Kromsky minstrel wheel that she was not using anymore, and my friend Melissa came over and taught me how to use the thing, and I'm so excited to add this to my rotation of fiber crafts. This was my very first skein of yarn. It's not beautiful, but it was a great learning experience, and I've really enjoyed working with all different fibers along the way. One especially fun thing has been teaching my nieces how to spin. My nieces Riley and Millie tried it out over the summer, and as you can tell, they thought it was great. Towards the end of the summer, my niece Ayla got to give it a try too. Well, that is going to do it for today. I hope that you enjoyed this little year in review. It is a lot. So I hope that this is interesting and inspiring to you and not overwhelming. I realize that many of you just make a few projects a year and that makes you really happy, and I think that is wonderful. This is not about sort of competition or anything like that. I think I always enjoy these videos and seeing what other people make, and it often inspires me in a way that just looking at project pages or patterns on Ravelry does not. So I thought I would give you one last look. My final piece of the year that I completed was my Nanaimo cardigan, and this was using 3 strands of yarn held together. I really love the effect of it. It's a big oversized cardigan. Let me back up and show you a little bit more. So it's a cropped cardigan, really big puffy sleeves, and it's super cozy, which is great because it's January and it's cold in here today.
So this is just the perfect layering piece. I just have it closed with a safety pin for right now. I might end up adding a button. I guess we'll see. I do like having my chest covered when I'm cold. So very happy with my last finished project for the year, and very excited as always to share with you. I would love to hear any questions or comments that you have below, and if you want to see what I'm up to on a more regular basis, definitely check out the Down Cellar Studio audio podcast on Apple Podcasts or wherever you like to listen. I record 2 episodes a month around the 15th and the 30th or 31st of the month, and I talk about everything I'm working on and what I'm learning. We have some really fun make-alongs and do other sort of projects and contests and things like that. So if that sounds interesting to you, check out all of the details in the box below, and I hope to see you again really soon. Bye-bye.